Good morning. I'm here today with my spasmodic dysphonia voice, and this is a self-portrait I created in Procreate. This was me one day at one of my favorite wineries. Today I thought I'd talk about a moment where people said that I didn't belong because of my voice. Back in the day, I decided that I wanted to pursue being a teacher, which had always been one of my dreams. And I was in an elementary education program. And I remember that one of my professors asked me to stay after class one day. And he told me, "You really do not belong in this program." And I asked him why. And he said, "No one can understand anything that you're saying. The kids are not going to be able to understand you. The parents are not going to be able to understand you. The other teachers are not going to be able to understand you. And basically, you don't belong. And what are you doing about your voice? And have you considered just, quitting the program?" Well, luckily, I did not consider quitting the program. I was in speech therapy. I did learn some good tricks and tips and tricks. I did go on to do my student teaching, in which I used a microphone, which helped. I told my class about my voice. My sponsoring teacher said I was the best student teacher she'd had in 50 years of teaching. And I learned that I could be a good teacher, even with a voice that was different and unusual. And I just think back to that person and I think, what was in it for him to judge me for the way that I sounded and to tell me that how I sounded meant that I was not able to move forward with my life. I just wonder how many other people he said things like this to. And I guess it was back in the day, far enough back when maybe there weren't as many protections for people who had disabilities, and I never really thought of going and talking to anybody about it because I felt so embarrassed and ashamed of, who I was and how I sounded, that I just really internalized it. And I think this is the first time I've ever really shared that story with anybody. But I just want to let you know, if anyone has ever told you that you can't do something because of the way you sound, it's not true. You can. There are many, many ways to communicate, especially in today's world, where now we have the internet, we have text messaging, and we have instant messaging, and we have so many different options available to us. And you know what? Even if we don't have any of those, we still have our regular, unique voices, and we can still communicate with those. I was reading the other day that it only takes about 4 minutes for someone to get used to a different voice. And you may find this true, even if you've met someone who has maybe a heavy accent. A heavy accent could be considered to be a different type of sounding voice. And maybe after you've listened to them for a few minutes, maybe you start to be able to understand what they're saying. Well, I think it may be the same thing with an imperfect voice, a voice that maybe breaks or cracks or stutters, or maybe a quiet voice, or a loud voice, or any type of voice that maybe someone does not consider to be normal. Anyway, I just want to encourage all of you, no matter how your voice sounds or how it works, today, please, I hope you feel just a little bit better about your voice. And I hope today you'll find one way, just one little way, for maybe 1 second or 10 seconds to feel empowered to say something in your voice. Thank you. And I'll see you next time on my spasmodic voice.